Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I know last week I made a video regarding the Sony A7C Mark II and then the Sony A7RC, which I guess is now called the Sony A7CR. And yeah, I guess I was right, surprisingly. I mean, the rumors were saying that the A7CR was going to be about $3,400 for that body, and it actually is $3,000, which I still think is high, but it's much better than what was expected. And then for the Sony A7C Mark II, that's $2,200. Now, I think with the Sony A7CR, that camera is actually a little bit less when you factor in the little grip they're including with the camera. So, I'll be honest with you, I still think it's a piece of shit. No, okay, that's a little bit of a stretch. But, you know, it doesn't have the 8K like I projected. And it has 4K 60, but it is cropped. Not as cropped as the Sony A7C Mark II. But I would say that, you know, if you're looking at one of these two cameras and you're really looking for portability, I would go with the A7C Mark II definitely over the A7CR. I think most people are probably going to go with the A7C Mark II, considering the fact that if you're just buying it for portability, the 61 megapixels, it's nice, I guess, but I think most people that are going to buy a camera with 61 megapixels are probably going to have quite a bit of glass, heavier glass for like landscape, maybe architecture. I don't know. I mean, I'm just speculating here, but the fact that it doesn't have the 8K, which isn't a big deal. I think the biggest problem I have with those cameras is the fact that the EVF and the screens are bullshit. I mean, specifically on the A7CR, they should have upgraded that screen, and they should have upgraded the EVF. The EVF in the A7R5 is the same one that's in the Sony A7S3. Now, I wasn't necessarily expecting it to be that high of quality, but you're paying $3,000 for that camera, and it has a shitty EVF and a screen that was like designed years ago. It's like Sony doesn't want to bring out better screens in their cameras. And I know they can. It's not an issue with the battery life because they have the Z battery in those cameras. They're not writing to dual SD cards. So why can't they have put better screens? I mean, at least in the A7CR. Like the A7C2, I mean, it's a watered down A7 IV. Of course, it does have the autofocus from the A7R5, but I think they could have done much, much better, even with the lower prices like I was anticipating. I mean, I personally would not get either of these cameras. Well, okay, I should take that back. I would love to see other manufacturers make something like the A7C2. Like, for example, I'm shooting on the Panasonic S5 Mark II, and it's a great camera. I do have some quirks with it now that I've had it for 6-7 months, but I would love to have like a Panasonic, like, you know, Panasonic A7C style body, you know, so I can use my full frame glass like this 18 f1.8, which I am shooting on. So if you're interested in picking up this lens, if you're a Lumix shooter, the 18 f1.8 is pretty cool. It's not as versatile as other lenses, but it's still nice when you have, you know, when you want to do these kind of close-up shots, you know. So anyway, I'm digressing a bit. The A7C II out of those two cameras is definitely the way to go. I mean, unless you really need the resolution, but I feel like if it's really a hobby, like, which these cameras are really geared towards people who are, you know, more so enthusiasts, I don't really think you need the 61 megapixels if it's just like recreational. Like, you could totally get by with 33 megapixels on the A7C II. That's plenty of resolution. Going back to the A7CR, the fact that you don't have 8K in it, which I said before isn't a big deal. I was expecting it wouldn't be in there. That thing would fry up, you know, in a few minutes. The 4K 60 is cropped, which was expected to. Interestingly enough, the Sony A6700 has 4K 120. The A7C II and the A7CR don't. Now, you can make the argument that that's probably for the fact that they have full frame sensors in their bodies, and it's about the same size, relatively speaking, as a Sony A6700. So, you know, getting 4K 120 on an APS-C sensor, it's probably not going to overheat as fast as a full frame sensor. But if you're cropping into the sensor, well, I guess you're still using the sensor. I mean, it's still a bigger sensor, even if you are cropping into it. So maybe that's why. But if you're really looking at 4K 120 and you want something really compact and portable, go with the A7CII easily. It's just, I don't know, it's just so funny. Like Sony was pioneering, or I guess they didn't pioneer, Lumix actually did. Sony has definitely been dominating the market in the mirrorless space. Lately, I think we've just been seeing trickle-down technology. The fact is that they could have introduced more into these two bodies. As I was saying before, the screens, the EVF, they could have been way better. The Z battery could definitely have powered something like, I don't know, on the A7CR, like 3.9 million dots, maybe like 5.7. I think there's one that's about 5.7. I forget which camera. I think the A7R4 has a 5.7. I could be wrong about that. But it's like 2.3 or something crazy like that. And then the screen is I think it's like 1.03 million dots. It's like bullshit. Like, I gotta be honest with you guys. It's crazy. Like, I know they're portable. I know they're supposed to be compact, but the Z battery is powerful enough to drive a screen that is way better than the screens on the A7CR and the A7C Mark II. I feel like if you buy one of those cameras, yeah, you're gonna get the benefit of being portable or having something very portable that you can carry with you. But like, you compare it to any other manufacturer's screen, like the Panasonic S5 Mark II, the screen is pretty solid. Like, it's only like, I think 1.8 million dots, but it's much better than like my previous Sony cameras that I've had in the past. Canon has great screens. Nikon has pretty decent screens from what I remember. I've only used like a Nikon Z6 in a Best Buy once. I can't really comment on Fujifilm because I haven't really used that many Fujifilm cameras, but it just seems like Sony is stuck on using these shitty screens. And they like, I don't know, if you watch like other creators or other YouTubers that are like pretty adamant on like doubling down on these criticisms, you'll see that they say like Sony just keeps using the same crappy screens on all their cameras. Like, I think the only time they refreshed their screens was when the Sony A7R3 and the Sony A7R4 got the refresh. So they bumped up the screen resolution, but still, like, you know, like you pull out your phone, and I mean, I don't expect it to be as great as my iPhone, but like this iPhone is like 3-4 generations old, and the screen is way better. Like, again, I'm not expecting like the highest end screen, but like on something like when you're out and about and you're trying to use it, you know, in the sun, like a bright day like today, you want a better screen. Like, even if it's more compact. I don't know. I know I'm harping hard on that specific thing, but yeah, Sony, like, up your game in the LCD screens for your cameras. Like, they have a lot of the latest and greatest technology in their cameras, but now I think they need to shift their priority with the next generation of these cameras and really focus on usability and practicality with the function of the camera. I think that the screen, in terms of, as I said before, the resolution, but also the menu systems. I know that menu systems they're not hard once you get the hang of them. I understand that, but I do think that Sony has a little work to do on their second version of the menu systems. I know they first introduced that with the Sony A7S3. But yeah, I think that they could do a lot more in terms of the usability of their cameras and just the user interface. I think user interface or user experience is tied into both the tactile feel of the cameras and then also the menu systems, how things are controlled. I think they definitely have a lot of work to do in that regard. And I think with the A7C II and the A7CR, it's pretty relevant that they still haven't quite accomplished that. Yeah, they could do a lot. Like, and they have a lot of potential. It's really funny too, because like I've said in the past that like Sony really only has a couple of things that they need to tweak moving forward. And they really, I mean, they already are running the market, but I think they're #1 in mirrorless sales, if I'm not mistaken. But I could be wrong about that. I'm not crazy about S-Log3 and S-Cinetone as much as some other people are. They're still great color profiles, but I gotta be honest with you guys, I like the color profiles in the Panasonic cameras better. The Cine D, I think it's version 2, and then right now I'm using the natural profile, and the reason I'm using it is because it actually goes down to ISO 100, and even though I still have an ND filter on this lens, stupid fly, sorry, even though I have an ND filter on this lens, it's still pretty bright out, so I wanted to stop down the aperture and ISO 100 is the lowest I could go. Now, obviously, I could shoot in, you know, vlog, but for today, I'm not going to do that. I wanted to use the natural profile because I've been really using Cine D2 a lot. So I've seen a couple of videos online where they're using the natural profile, and I really like the look. So we'll see how it looks for this video. And again, I digressed from the topic, but yeah, I think the Sony line of cameras moving forward really needs to focus, or Sony as a company really needs to focus on usability, the user experience, and while they introduce so much advanced technology into their mirrorless cameras, they're really holding back on, or I don't know if it's really more so a cost solution. Like, I'm sure they're saving a shit ton of money by not updating the screens on their cameras, but it's a pretty, I don't know, to me it's a big deal. Like, I don't think that, you know, as much as I've praised the Panasonic S5 II screen here, it still isn't as bright as I would like it, and I think most mirrorless cameras don't have a super bright screen, but it would be awesome if you could get one that's like, I don't know, 1,000, 1,200 nits or even brighter. So yeah, there's a lot they could do. I think that overall they do have great products. I mean, they have so many different cameras and lenses, but I think that they could really do so much more than what they've been doing, and I think they're really holding back. So that's my critique of Sony. And yeah, if you guys like the look of the 18 f1.8 Lumix lens, let me know. But yeah, anyway, that's pretty much it. I'll see you guys next time.